Administration loses again in the court of law. The U.S. Court of Appeal struck down 7-4 Trump's authority to enact tariffs under International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Again, Trump loses in the court of law. He lost in the International Trade Court, the lower court, went to the U.S. Court of Appeal of the Federal Circuit, and it struck down again, ruled 7-4, that Trump and his administration, they have no authority to enact tariffs under International Emergency Economic Powers Act, potentially stopping the core policy of the Trump administration on tariffs on every country. We all know that on his Liberation Day, he imposed tariffs on all countries around the globe, of which again we are learning from the documents which have been reviewed that those tariffs, they have nothing to do with addressing America's trade deficit. No, they are emerging to be something else. Already I've made a video on that. The decision is on hold till October 15. On October 14, if Trump hasn't appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, then that means by then, effective on October 15th, any tariffs which were enacted under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act will be null and void, will be rendered obsolete, or will have to be removed. He has the whole full month to take this issue to his buddies. We all know what is going to happen right now. In between now and then, gifts from those Republican financiers, billionaires, they are now going to his buddies in the Supreme Court. As I said in another video, the Supreme Court of the United States is emerging to be one of the most corrupted legal entity in the entire universe. Right now, we know that in the interim, while we are waiting for October 14, gifts will be flowing, vacations, yachts, luxury cars from Republican financiers will be going to the Supreme Court judges. You know what it means? You know what it means, guys? You know how to play the game. Let's play the game. There's one judge there who is very, very corrupt. He's one of the most corrupt judges who have ever emerged in the entire Western world. The wife was involved in this Stop the Steal, and the husband has always been receiving gifts from Republican financiers which he never disclosed. He's one of the most corrupt men in the entire universe. The court upheld the decision from the lower U.S. Court of International Trade. Says you have no authority under International Emergency Economic Powers. You have no authority, Donald, under International Emergency Powers. The use of IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is abbreviated IEEPA, to enact tariffs was outside authority granted by the law. The ruling says trafficking tariffs and reciprocal tariffs, which were imposed mainly on Canada and China, they are illegal. They exceed the authority delegated by IEEPA. These trafficking tariffs, which were imposed on our country, Canada, Mexico, and China, they exceed authority granted under IEEPA. The court ruled that tariffs, they are not part of the executive powers, the powers of the president. They have to be mandated, they have to come from the Congress. The court said tariffs are not an executive power, they are congressional power. The IEEPA, it actually bestowed significant authority to the president to undertake a number of actions in response to the national emergency, but not tariffs. Not tariffs. April 2nd tariffs and February 1st tariffs, they were ruled against, which were imposed on China, Canada, and Mexico. As I've said before, that those Liberation Day tariffs, they exceed the authority granted under IEEPA for the President of the United States. Both tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs are unbounded in scope and amount and duration, said the ruling. So tariffs that Mr. Trump imposed using different justification on steel and copper and aluminum will not be affected. Trump, in the aftermath of this ruling, posted on social after the ruling that tariffs are still in effect. This man tends to be very stubborn about his tariffs because they are not to address the trade deficit. Ronald Reagan once said that you don't need to address any trade imbalances by imposing tariffs and having prices officially raised due to tariffs. No, you let companies compete without any interference, without affected by other official price rising. As he said that if you impose tariffs in order to protect certain industry, you are now creating the innovation malaise in that particular industry. The managers will not be innovative as to allow themselves to compete with other companies. They will rely on being politically protected. Let them learn to compete on their own. Because if people are buying goods coming from outside, it means your industry is not producing the right quality of goods to your own people. Why do you need to protect them? Let them swim and sink on their own. Trump called the ruling partisan. I don't know, I haven't looked into whether these judges were appointed by a Democrat president or a Republican president. But judges, they are there to interpret the law. Judges in the court of law are there to interpret the law. They are not like what we see in the U.S. Supreme Court, where judges receive gifts from Republican financiers to influence them make certain decisions. No! We need these judges to interpret the law as the law detects, as the law requires. The judges do not make the law. And last year there was a dubious ruling from these corrupt judges in the U.S. Supreme Court and said president is immune in his executive duties. If Trump now can order the whatever he wants to, even the assassination of an American citizen with impunity because of this dubious ruling, no human being is above the law. Never. That used to be the past in France when we have Louis VIII declaring himself law. In today's world, we are better than that. We can't have human beings who are above the law. Can't have people who claim to be the law. Louis VIII actually claimed to be the law and the government and everything on himself. These tariffs, they are causing price rises in the US. As per US price index, they jumped last month. As I've said in the other videos, tariffs, if they are imposed, they are paid by the local importer. He has three choices. I've said this in my other videos. He can either pass them in total, partially pass them, or just eat them, just absorb them. But if he absorb them, take them in, eat them, they will then affect the company's margin and his profit will go down. And this in turn, the stock of that company will go down. The stock price will go down. In most cases, companies find a way to pass them to the consumer. The prices are rising. Mr. Trump always says, when foreign governments pay tariffs. I don't know where the misconception comes from with American people. I heard another woman again was speaking on a YouTube channel saying it depends with the agreement. Then that is not tariffs. If you make an agreement that some foreign company will partially cover the tariffs, that is not tariffs. They call it something else. According to international trade, tariffs are paid by the local importer, who then can decide to pass them over to people or eat them and affect his margins. Companies like Walmart, Best Buy have begun rising prices in response to tariffs. Recently here I bought some other kitchen utensil. The price had almost gone up by 25%. And I asked the employee of that store and he was saying it could be due to tariffs. Tariffs, they make life expensive for the general public. Do you hear that, Mr. Trump? Tariffs, they make life expensive for the general public. U.S. companies feeling the impact of tariffs, but consumers who absorb a larger share of the pain. They hurt the general public. They hurt the consumers. Consumers are hurting. They're feeling the pain. Final earnings will soon slow down. The bottom line, Mr. Trump has time and time again been ruled by the court. The courts have ruled against tariffs, that the IEEPA has been abused by the Trump administration. But the Trump administration remains obstinate as a mule in going ahead with the tariffs. It's a high time that rational reasoning prevails and the tariffs be abandoned completely. For watching this video, please subscribe.